Over at the SIBO. Time now for our cash tag segment. We're taking a look at Affirm. For that, we want to bring in our next guest. That is Andy Swan, co-founder of LikeFolio. All right, Andy. So we're talking BNPL, and Affirm, when you think about it, is kind of a real-time gauge of the consumer. So when you look across the landscape of BNPL, where is the mind share now?
Yeah, I think Affirm really, for us, stands out as the most disciplined and durable player in the space. They lead in market share, repeat usage, and credit performance. So they're not really chasing volume like the other players. I think they're chasing quality rather than quantity, and that's really helping them out. If we look at LikeFolio data, web visits are up sharply since May, which is tracked almost perfectly with the recent stock rebound. If we look at volume share of visits, Affirm is at 47%, which is an enormous number considering the number of competitors that they have. And so we really see Affirm as the category leader by usage. And then we just look at the growth in visits. Klarna definitely looks strong, 83% growth in visits overall. But when you look at it from a size perspective, Affirm has such a large base to build from. 39% year over year growth for Affirm is on a much larger base, and it tells us that compared to some of these other players, Affirm is really taking market share and doing it, we think, the right way. Now, there's a huge question mark, which I know is what Kevin's going to talk about, is what's going on with the consumer, and that's the biggest yellow flag. That's the biggest wild card in this whole debate going into earnings. But in terms of across the landscape of buy now, pay later, we really see Affirm as a leader in both quality and sound growth metrics at this point.
Andy, when this started, when buy now, pay later started, it felt like a fad. It felt like something that may jump on the screen and then fade away. It got the nickname buy now, pay never. But now these companies are established and big, and they're doing extremely well. Affirm has jumped to profitability. My question is, all your charts look really positive for Affirm. It's the leader in market share. It's growing a big pie at 39%. Here's my question, Andy. Is Klarna a real competitor? Because their growth is big. You mentioned that was the obvious question, was how big is Klarna that their growth is so much better than Affirm? Is this like a Nike on Holdings kind of growth, or are they a real competitor? Because the numbers look pretty solid out of Klarna. If that keeps up, they're going to start making some headway here.
Yeah, I think Klarna got a real pop after its IPO and just investor interest in their website. So that may be throwing things off a little bit in terms of our data. But when we look at Affirm, their integrations with merchants are top of the line. I think that's where they really shine, is they've really dug in with the merchants. They're able to show through some of their AI-driven checkout optimizations. They've been able to prove to merchants that they can create 5% sales lift for the merchant. And so in an economy where things are getting a little shaky, if a checkout provider can add 5% sales lift, then all of a sudden that checkout provider, in this case Affirm, becomes a critical part of a lot of merchants' processes. And so I think that they've established themselves both as having quality customers that they can underwrite, but also from the merchant side that they're delivering, higher checkout totals to the merchant. That's a big deal in this economy, and I don't think there's many others that can really claim that. I think that most of the other players are trying to figure out the consumer side of the equation still, while Affirm has really seemed to move on to providing value also to the merchants.
Let me ask you this, Andy. I am curious to know, because you talked about, you're talking about the credit quality of their base, their user base. I was talking to a CIO earlier today, and he says their customers skew younger and lower income. now younger, fresh to the workforce. And he pointed out those would be the most exposed to inflation, student loan pressures, and just overall installment fatigue. So he was a little concerned. And then the other thing that was a flag around it was it can sometimes be perceived as a meme stock. What's your thought on that heading into earnings?
Yeah, no, I agree with both of those points. I think all of our metrics show very positive things for Affirm across and leadership in the buy now, pay later space. So if you're bullish on buy now, pay later, then I think Affirm is the stock for you. It's better than its competitors. And if you're bearish on buy now, pay later, then I don't think any of these companies should be in your portfolio, because it's really just now a question of macroeconomic trends and pressures. And, I think investors need to have their own opinion on that. But from our standpoint, from a LikeFolio data standpoint, everything we see about Affirm in terms of the traction with its customers, the traction with its merchants, the value that it's delivering to both sides of the equation, and the loyalty that it's generating on both sides of the equation are all very positive. And so we like Affirm from a pure data standpoint. They're winning.
Okay. All right. We'll leave our conversation there for today. That is Andy Swan, co-founder of LikeFolio, with the latest look across Affirm in the BNPL space. Now, for the trading perspective on all things Affirm, I want to get Tom White back into this conversation. So